In an average week, Glenn Sedgman clocks up 18 hours and 70 kilometres in the pool as he prepares for the Pan Pacs. On top of his own training, Glenn has also been selected to captain the state team and is predicting big things from his New South Wales teammates.
In Australia, I'd say it's between Queensland and us for the top state, and we've got a couple of countries over there as well, but I'm tipping at least the top 5.
Glenn will compete in the 50 and 100 metres breaststroke and the 200 individual medley. He currently holds the New South Wales country record for the 100 metres, and his coach says the Pan Pacifics could signal the start of big things.
Glenn's pretty talented, he's got a lot of potential there, and if he makes his mind up, he'll be there in 2000.
The Pan Pacs are now less than a month away. Glenn says if he's any guide, he won't need to be called on as captain to motivate the side.
I think the team will be mostly G'd up themselves. I mean, racing at the Pacific School Games is not something you do every day.
Phil Hind, NBN News.
Just a few days ago, 18-year-old Kimberly Baldwin was just one of thousands of Year 11 students nearing the end of the school year. But with the help of her mobile phone, she's been given an unwanted early mark. Ms Baldwin was banned from Casino High on the state's north coast for using a mobile at school as part of her job at a local electronics firm.
This pupil has to make up her mind whether she wants to be in business or whether she wants to be at school.
The Education Minister has backed the decision by the principal and the school community. And while mobile phones are banned in all classrooms across the state, they can be used in other areas of the school with permission. But there's no intention of making the rules the same in every school.
I don't believe that there should be a uniform policy right across the state. I mean, principals have substantial powers. It's up to the principal to work out a policy relevant to their school in conjunction with the school community.
The student and school will meet on Monday to try to get Ms Baldwin back to the books. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
It's basically the launch of our bicentennial year on Australia Day, and there's major celebrations being planned for the day.
It was one of the most spectacular crashes ever seen in the 600cc Supersport bikes. Leading the field in the Nationals in May, Morris rolled out of the titles and out of championship contention.
It was a big crash, and it's basically taken me 5 months to get over it.
It's been a time of rebuilding. In the last few months, the 3 times national champion has bounced back, winning the Victorian titles, and he leads the New South Wales Championships by 7 points with just 1 round to go. It's at Oran Park this weekend. Morris will defend the title he's won for the last 3 years.
I've got a bit of stiff competition with Kevin Curtin, another local rider who won the Australian title this year, and I'd say we'll be butting heads pretty seriously this weekend.
The 7-point buffer may sound big enough, but there'll be 3 rounds this weekend for the challengers to edge back the margin.
There's more than just Kevin, there's another probably 4 or 5 guys that will be interested in winning, so it's, we won't be able to do it just between ourselves.
And lending their support this weekend will be his father and former rider Kevin and star of the future 4-year-old son Aaron. Following in his father's footsteps, he's already got the knack for the Pee-wee 50 as the family tradition continues. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
Nelson Bay residents were shocked to hear their water supply may be contaminated with a potentially fatal gut parasite.
I'm very surprised. I don't know where it was taken from.
Local concern was sparked by a newspaper article implying the Cryptosporidium parasite had been discovered in a water supply taken last month from Glover's Hill Reservoir. The report suggested the parasite was found in the town's water supply, a bug which can cause diarrhoea and vomiting. The Hunter Water Corporation has defended its decision not to issue a public alert, saying the results from the water test are yet to be confirmed.
The follow-up testing that we've been getting done is indicating that maybe the first results that they got aren't necessarily Cryptosporidium. There's some very strong degree of doubt about the original test result.
The reservoir was drained and refilled as a precaution. Hunter Water has declared safe its supply to the area. Vanessa Spark, NBN News. The Brown family have been cultivating oysters near Saltash in Port Stephens for 5 generations. They're one of 13 farmers chosen across New South Wales to take part in an experimental program to create a bigger and better oyster. The Port Stephens Research Station is overseeing the selective breeding program.
They are treated as very young larvae to stop the oysters from spawning. By doing that, it allows the oysters to grow much faster.
Daily research involves weighing and measuring each oyster. The new triploid variety is nearly 40% bigger than the normal species. Farmers are looking forward to beginning mass production next year.
The cost advantage is there, black and white. The farmer's going to get a higher return because you can grow a larger oyster quicker.
The oysters are expected to reach consumers in the near future. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
The list of sackings is nearly as long as signings. Ninnis, Rees, Moore and now Lachlan Armfield, who was told just days before the Falcons' trip to Malaysia. He's touring the States with the team at the moment, but needs a minor miracle to get a game with the Falcons next year.
3 teams leaving the league, of course basically 36 players come onto the market, and 3 less teams for the remaining players or new players coming in to go to.
The free agents list is due on Monday, but the Falcons will make no decisions until coach Tom Wisman returns from the States a week later. He's trialling 2 American short forwards for next season, with local star Ben Melmoth expected to take up the slack left by centre David Van Dyke. Melmoth will be supported under the basket by Rookie of the Year Scott McGregor, with youngsters Ben Pepper and Matt Lowe to come off the bench.
It is pressure on these young blokes, but I think these guys have the talent and the ability to accept that pressure and respond to it.
Paul Tynan rates the team as the best balanced ever, with the starting guards to be Australian representative Tony Jensen and NBL stalwart Butch Hayes.
Rolling over the Hunter River in picturesque landscape near Scone, the driver of this rig got a nasty sinking feeling.
No, one at all, mate. I just felt the truck give a bit of a lurch on the driver's wheel, and I sort of looked at the left-hand mirror to have a look at what was going on. Next time I felt the whole lot of the truck going.
The old timber bridge simply disintegrated under the weight of his truck. A bomb could barely have done more damage. Incredibly, 50-year-old Neville Harris received little more than a scratch to his forehead. More amazingly, 2 council workmen who were under the bridge at the time for repairs made a fleet-footed escape.
It's the only time I've ever walked on air.
Neville Harris's load of topsoil was what most would regard as a fairly important delivery.
I was coming from Denman, taking some topsoil to Kerry Packer's place, Ellison's.
The soil was for improvements to Mr Packer's private polo field at Elliston, while retrieval workers scratch their heads about how to extract the truck from its watery moorings. Locals are using a detour. Laura Saperstein, NBN News.
Two of the Breakers' young guns trained on the beach today. Young Socceroos striker Clayton Zane joining New South Wales under-20 star Peter Ritchie. Ritchie's missed the opening Ericsson Cup matches through injury, but will travel to Victoria this weekend. And while he's not guaranteed of a run against the Lakers, teammate Zane will be at the centre of attention. On top of the week's fitness sessions, the Breakers' frontline has also been working on the part of the game that's let them down, finishing off.
There's a certain mindset involved in it. And it's a fairly aggressive sort of mindset. You know, you can almost will the ball in sometimes if you want to, and you try hard enough.
The Breakers have scored 3 draws on the trot, twice against Canberra and a fortnight ago against Wollongong. With a little luck, each match could have gone to Newcastle.
I don't see that as a really big problem. We're creating a lot of chances, we're scoring, and really 1-0 should be enough to secure a victory, but by the same token, we're still picking up points, which we weren't doing last year.
Someone who's not doing quite as well is South Melbourne. They're yet to get a result.
So they're actually due one. We always seem to pull teams that are, but having said that, you know, we've had 3 draws, we should have had 3 wins, so we're due a result as well.
The side departs for Melbourne on Sunday. The game kicks off at 6. Jonathan Upton, NBN News. Clubs from the Great Lakes to the Central Coast met this morning for the Tea Gardens Hawks Nest Surf Life Saving Club Surf Spectacular. Ideal conditions for day 1 of the weekend event, the flat surf playing right into the hands of the stronger competitors. Predictable results in most of the ocean races. In the open surfboat heats, Swansea Belmont continued to show the way. The team has won the opening 3 rounds of the Surfboat Survival Series, and their dominance today was no different. A 3-way tussle back to shore in the Veterans. It was one of the closest contests of the day, Caves Beach winning the blanket finish. Plenty of action also on the sand, with Australian female beach sprint representative Beth Rodham the star attraction. The 19-year-old world champion from Foster barely raised a sweat winning her event, but the spoils were shared among the clubs in the other sprints. Juniors kick off the final day of the carnival tomorrow morning, while the feature events will follow. The 12-kilometre boat and ski marathons from Hawks Nest Beach to the Tea Garden Hotel on the Mile River.
The threat of industrial action at Newcastle University comes at the most crucial time of the year. Thousands of students are winding down their studies with exams, but if academic staff demands aren't met by the university's management, there could be major delays in the posting of results. Staff say their action is in the long-term interests of students.
If we've got funding cuts which are going to undermine teaching, the quality of our teaching, the quality of our research, then maybe students will get their degrees, but the degrees are going to be worth a great deal less than they are at the present time.
Newcastle University is now engaged in a cost-cutting exercise as a result of federal cuts to education. Academics say with staff losses, their workloads will increase.
There's no alchemy here. I mean, if you expected to teach the same or more students with less money, that necessarily means increased workloads. There's no other way around it.
Academic staff are expected to meet with university management this week.
"14 hours after it left Melbourne, the Eggleston truck drove up the winding road to home this afternoon. Peter, Marie and in the back champion 4-year-old Valance, all pleased to be back after their outstanding success in Melbourne. It was a trip they'll never forget. The 4-year-old, who was bought for $7,000 as a yearling, won more than $100,000 over Australia's premier racing carnival. The win in the Queen Elizabeth Stakes at Flemington the highlight, but all the same, there's nothing like the green grass of home.
He knew a few miles out that he was getting close to home. He started kicking the truck and he knew he was getting close to home.
The word of the champion's return didn't take long to pass around the stable. All showed their support to welcome him back. They'll spend around 7 weeks together before a timely return to racing.
Yeah, we'll set him for the Brisbane Cup now. He'll have a spell, probably a couple of months, and then we'll set him for the Brisbane Cup and then back down to Melbourne for the spring.
Like a trained show pony, Valance wears his rug proud, and so he should. Next year is shaping up as an even bigger one. But with the triumphant return has also come tragic news. Valance's syndicate manager Keith McGuinness died yesterday in hospital.
It's shattered everyone. A great bloke and a real loss to the industry.
The Ganinan plant is in full production with giant freight loco bodies lining its halls. 1,000 workers are on the job, as well as building trams for China and refurbishing Sydney's commuter rail fleet. On time and on budget to build 120 National Rail Corporation locomotives, planners are now looking at what comes next when the big contract wraps up in about 15 months' time. An ALP parliamentary task force toured the plant today. Local members asked to wield their political clout to keep the contracts rolling in.
I do share a concern that there could be a down period for about 9 to 12 months during the period leading up to the next generation of carriages that will go into service in Sydney for the Olympics. And I'm looking now at whether or not we can get some quickening up of an existing contract to take up that shortfall.
The girl was snatched in broad daylight as she pedalled along the path behind McDonald's. Police say just before 6 yesterday evening, a man wearing a balaclava dragged the girl into bushes where another man was laying in wait. The girl's screams alerted her 14-year-old brother a little further down the track. As he ran to her aid, the two men escaped on foot. The girl was able to provide police only with the description of one of her attackers. He's described as 170 centimetres tall, of thin build, last seen wearing a white t-shirt with a surf motif and a black balaclava. Meanwhile, police at Warners Bay are looking for a woman who held up the attendant of the King Street Caltex service station at gunpoint overnight. Police say just after 9, a woman entered the store and while the attendant's back was turned, pulled a beanie down over her face and produced a rifle. She escaped on foot down neighbouring Charles Street with the contents of the cash drawer. Police described the woman as of medium height, of big build with dark hair, last seen dressed in a spray jacket, track pants, joggers and a striped beanie. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Phil Hind, NBN News.
A unit embracing 2 new cardiac theatres, an angiography unit, intensive care, coronary care facilities and the like. And we are now the first and the only hospital on the Central Coast providing cardiac surgery and cardiac angiography.
Kalocka Tohi has arrived in Newcastle after spending the last 10 years in New Zealand. The Tongan-born lock has made the trip to Australia to play rugby for the Wildfires.
There's no reason really, but I thought I'll make a change, just start a new life.
Together with his young family, Tohi expects to stay in Newcastle for at least a couple of seasons. He brings with him rugby experience from Auckland in the New Zealand Tongan development squad, and the 25-year-old expects the game to be no different in Australia.
I think it's much the same, but it's still hard though.
The Wildfires will welcome the 188cm lock with open arms. Last year they lacked depth in the forwards. Another recruit also new to the city is fellow Kiwi Noel Thomas. Like Tohi, he too was fitting into his new surroundings this afternoon and looking forward to season 97 with the Wildfires.
I'm really keen to play here, so put 100% into it and see how it goes.
Newcastle is still looking for more forwards, in particular another second rower and prop. Negotiations with Willie O have progressed no further.
An hour and a half into last night's regular meeting, Council moved into closed session to discuss a confidential staff matter. The packed public gallery was cleared, the only other person allowed to remain, a solicitor to advise the group opposed to General Manager Rhonda Bignell. The meeting to sack the GM after just 20 months in the job took only 5 minutes, with the vote going 7-5 against her.
It's one of the most despicable decisions that this council has ever made. The councillors involved should be ashamed of themselves.
Amid rowdy scenes, Ms Bignell refused to comment on the decision, but had come to the meeting expecting the worst. In it, she claimed a lack of procedural fairness, labelling the move as totally unjustified and one she would fight in court. Those behind the push to dump Ms Bignell refused to comment on camera. A spokesperson would say only that the decision had been democratic. Legal advice to the Mayor suggests that a rescission motion lodged before the meeting was formally closed means that Rhonda Bignell will remain on as acting General Manager until the rescission motion is debated at another ordinary meeting. When that meeting will be called is up to the Mayor.
When you're bleeding like this, if you don't have quick and decisive surgery, it will keep on bleeding and you'll die.
Under the terms of the termination offered to Ms Bignell, ratepayers would be likely to foot a bill of more than $500,000. The Mayor says he won't resign and is urging the state government to intervene.
It is time for the state government to step in. By calling a public inquiry into the activities of this council.
An investigation team from the Department of Local Government was due to arrive in Maitland late this afternoon to begin probing the dismissal and report back to the Minister. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Avalon has just returned from promoting his latest film, Tunnel Vision, starring Patsy Kensit. His new production, Out of the Blue, is a tale of corruption and murder. It'll mark a return to Newcastle for Avalon, whose youth was spent between jobs for local menswear and grocery stores before he finally turned to film.
I got fired from all of those places, so I decided to get into the film industry because I thought, well, if I can get in there, they can't fire me.
It was the combination of fond memories and past successes that brought him back to Newcastle. His first film, Summer City, was also shot here and has since become a cult classic. It featured a young Mel Gibson in his cinema debut.
I made 2 other films in Newcastle, one of them Summer City, which was, as you know, is Mel Gibson's first movie, and the second one was Breaking Loose, and I made that at Catherine Hill Bay. And both those films have been extremely successful all around the world. So I thought, let's get lucky and make a third one.
Avalon today discussed potential locations with Newcastle businessmen. He's interested in shooting the film at Carrington and perhaps a local shopping centre. He's also looking for local crew members. It's an exciting time for Avalon, as Out of the Blue will be his directing debut.
It's a very exciting time for me, and I'm really looking forward to shooting another film here in Newcastle.
Filming will begin next week and is scheduled to end in February.
Last night was the final straw for the Gallagher family. Just after bedding down for the night, daughters Jasmine and Candice were under siege by an army of white ants.
We had a really late night because we had to get up because they all threw our beds and everything. It's horrible because it like when they're in your bed, you can feel them, they bite you and stuff, and it destroys the house as well.
The family says nests of the ants have been gradually spreading around the unit for the past 2 years. The tile is clearly visible, a lifted floorboard revealing structural damage.
There's equivalent to roughly 40 white ant nests, some of them large, some of them the size of a rock melon, and some of them only, minute, just breaking out over the last few days all throughout the house.
7 other units in the block have also reported the pests. Mrs Gallagher blames the Department of Housing for the mess, claiming they haven't taken appropriate action to rid the unit of white ants.
Even pest control representatives had tried to tell them as well. They'd had recommended a lot of different forms of treatment, but the Housing Commission was just going for the bare essentials.
The Department of Housing says it's aware of the problem and is seeking emergency accommodation for the family. Sections of the house will now be rebuilt to ensure it's safe.